What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Shoot the Gap, the IDP Fantasy Football podcast here at Fantasy and Frames. I'm your host, Jorge Edwards. This week, of course, as always, we got Steve Hungarter, Mr. IDP Hunter himself. We got Justin Taylor, Mr. JT Orange. Steve, let's start with you. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. My Ultra GM League just started, the 32 team, so I'm all invested in that. I'm having a blast.
Okay, so we didn't get to it last week, and I apologize for that. Let's start off this week before we get to JT. Please tell the folks more about Ultra GM because I read into it, and this league, this platform looks amazing.
Okay, yeah, I'll tell you about it, and I'll tell you the strategy I've been doing. So Ultra GM, if you use the promo code Hunter right now, you get $5 off. It's usually a $30 package. You're going to get, for $25, you're going to get two teams. One franchise you pick, whichever franchise you want, you can change the name, logo, slug, whatever you want. You're going to get two teams. You can get a 32-team league, which just started today for me, and then you're going to get a 14-team league. You're going to get offense. You're going to get defense. You're going to get punt return scoring, kick return scoring. You're going to get offensive lineman scoring. So it's been a blast. You're getting the picks that the NFL team does. So the logic is if you can do better than your NFL team, then you're going to benefit in a league like this. So I'll tell you what my strategy's been so far, Jorge. First 10 picks, everybody picked identical the way their teams did, except for the Patriot guy, the Patriot owner. He took Ashton Genty, right? So I ended up getting Ted McMillan because I'm the Panthers. In the second round, Mason Taylor dropped. And then it hit me, Jorge. I'm going to do a money ball strategy. I'm going to get everybody who touches the offense, touch the football, I get points. I'm good enough, I think, not to toot my own horn. I could scotch tape a defense. So I'm getting guys off waivers. I made a 5th-round pick for Jermaine Pratt. I got Spillane off waivers. Tyrell Dodson off waivers. So I'm building a little sneaky defense. And for offensive line, I can't call it. I'm just holding my breath, and I'm hoping the PFF works. So my first round was Tet. Second round was Mason Taylor. Third round comes to me. I take Jalen Milroe because I figure if he ends up being something, that's a quarterback in the 32 that I can trade because I have Bryce Young. If he doesn't, I got a backup. So I'm having a blast. I've been spending the last hour pre-recording stuff and on my channel. And in the last hour, I've also been trying to get trades, trying to trade up for the last little bit of offensive players that are left. Having a blast this year. Again, come join me. If you want to play in my 14-team league, all you got to do is message Evan, Ultra GM. Promo code Hunter, and you can find me on there, IDP Hunter. You can find me on there. You can play in my league as well. But yeah, it's really fun, real fun off season for me. So I'm really invested. Nice.
Again, use the promo code IDP Hunter over at Ultra GM. Hunter. Yep. Exactly. Like Big Buck Hunter, except it's IDP Hunter, like the video game back in the day.
No IDP, just Hunter. Make it easy, just Hunter.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, well, I was attempting to make a funny joke, and that didn't even go that way. Okay, promo code Hunter, $5 off. Ultra GM, check it out today. JT, how you doing, buddy?
Doing well. Finally, a day where it wasn't 95 for football practice, so it was only 85, but there was clouds. It felt amazing. So we actually got some stuff done today. Got some hitting done. Got the pads on, full pads. Put my defense together the last 2 days at 6th grade tackle football practice. So running my 4-4-3, installing all my blitzes and my coverages. So always gets me excited, especially, hey, we get to talk IDP now. This is like, I love getting the defensive juices flowing here.
Love it, love it, love it. Speaking of defensive juices, you can head over to fantasyandframes.com. We got all of us IDPers who are doing articles and rankings, publishing their rankings by the end of this weekend for Redraft to get you ready for your leagues. We got our IDP divisional previews all coming out next week, which is fitting because it's one of the biggest weeks for fantasy football expo week next week. Definitely looking forward to meeting people who are attending who I haven't met before and seeing old faces. And young faces and new faces, and however you want to phrase that without being offensive, just faces. I just want to see some faces and have good interactions with you. So looking forward to all that next weekend in Canton, Ohio. But yes, IDP divisional previews going out all next week, as well as our offensive previews. Speaking of offense, if you haven't had a chance and you just missed Fourth and Frames, Rhett Manuel, myself, and Aiden Weingartner, we had Joe Dolan, the editor-in-chief and owner of Fantasy Points, join us to talk about the NFC East. So head over to our YouTube channel, subscribe, and go check that out as well when you get a chance. And if you can't watch the video and you have to get up early like Steve and I do tomorrow morning, listen to it in podcast form. That'll be up and running early tomorrow morning as well. All right, folks, let's get into business. Let's talk about the NFC South IDPs. This one, do you remember, Steve, when we were doing the NFC West and you made the comment like, this is a hard one? And then okay. For me, this was a hard one. This division was very, very difficult to like parse through, all the unknowns. I think if I was gonna put a word to it to describe this one, there's a lot of unknowns, especially like in the sleeper areas and the must starts. And so really, really interested to see what you all have to think. And of course, if you have any questions for your IDP Fantasy Football leagues, drop them in the chat.
Said.
If you have seriously, right? If you have any comments in general for fantasy football, whether it's the offensive side of the ball, still drop them in the chat. JT will answer those in the chat, as we only like to answer on air our IDP questions for all our IDP fans who are watching. And with that, let's get into the New Orleans Saints. Steve, you got a couple of musts. Who do you got here, sir?
I had a thought when you said there's a couple knowns. Y'all ever watch the Boondocks?
The cartoon on
There's
Cartoon
a couple
Network?
knowns and there's a couple unknowns, and
Exactly.
I don't know if you've ever seen that show, but yeah, there's a Samuel L. Jackson skit. It's hilarious. Anyway, you can look it up. This team is odd because, like, at first glance, I'm like, there's probably nobody that's a must. But when you kind of look through it, squint your eyes, just like this division, there's some quality stuff if you look at it through the right lens, So I'm going to give you two musts. I'm going to start with my first one. Especially for CB required leagues, I think Alontae Taylor deserves to be in your top 10. So he's a top 10 tier 1 CB required leagues. We're going to go Alontae Taylor here. He had a big year in 2023 when he was allowed to play slot corner. So that's what we're banking on here. That season was the one where they had Marshawn Lattimore on the one side, Paulson Adebo on the other side. That let him cook a little bit. He had 75 tackles, 50 being solos, 14 pass defenses. Then in 2024, what'd they do? He struggled because they traded Lattimore and Paulson Adebo got hurt, and they kept moving him around. He was a mixed bag all year. They put him outside. They put him inside. He was like a casserole on Thanksgiving. They just kept dishing him around the table. This guy played everywhere, but in the the expensive box seats in the stadium, So he was all over the place last year. So I'm banking this year. Who they got? They got Kool-Aid McKinsey. They got some good solid rookies coming in. I'm banking this year he's going back to the slot where he was. Even though last year was a bad year for him, I guess the beginning of the year he was successful. I don't know if you guys remember earlier in the season, he led the league. He had 3 sacks, and he was by far leading all the defensive backs in that category. Last point, and I'll get off from here. The defensive coordinator, if you want to talk about team schemes, they're running a 3-4 this year. So there's a camp battle for the CB2 position, and there's a camp battle for the DT position. But the 3-4 under Brandon Staley, it's going to be huge for that slot corner because – the primary advantage of a 3-4 lies on its ability to create pressures from various positions, ranging from the safeties to the linebackers. Well, they don't have a lot of linebacker depth here, so expect that slot corner to be busy applying tackles, applying pressures. Again, it's realistic to see Taylor in that slot role again, doing the pass rush, doing the defense. So that's why I have him as a must, especially if I'm in these CB required leagues.
I love that, bringing up Staley's track record as a defensive coordinator, as well as when he was a head coach, and the influence he had for the Chargers makes total sense right there. And it's funny that you mentioned the linebacking core, because I guess you and I will both get to a person there. You're right about depth, so they really have to maximize Taylor's proficiency in run defense there. JT, any thoughts on Alontae Taylor?
I love Taylor. Like he said, for a while there, he was winning you your leagues. He was winning you games early on a couple years ago. So he was an absolute freaking stud. He was like basically getting ready to lead the league in DB scoring. So I think there's a bounce back in there. I think this defense is going to be better. I also think this defense is going to be heavily relied upon to keep them in games. So I think you're going to see some pretty solid stats out of this defensive group. And if you're going to take a shot on a DB, I think this is the DB. He might be a little bit of a long shot, but if he gets back to form the way he was 2 years ago, I think he could be a steal for somebody, especially like Steve said. In quarterback start leagues, like if he scores anywhere we did in 2023, he's going to help you win your league.
All right, who's another must for you here, Steve, for the New Orleans Saints?
So again, these aren't your typical musts, but my second one, just imagine these big leagues we play in, Jorge. You know, when you're starting 2 DL, 2 LB, 2 flex, when you're looking for that next flex or that final flex, I'm looking for this player. So he's a must for me. Not tier 1 because he's buried on your ADP, because people are biased. They're ageists, whatever you want to call them. Every season they fade this guy. They fade him until he's going to retire. They're counting his retirement now. The name is Demario Davis. We know him well. Every year they tell you to fade him. The experts do, and every year he produces. He's just a guy. He's a must for me. He outshines every year ADP, and he's got flex appeal, and I'm going to get him in one of my flexes in most formats. And just to confirm what I'm saying, we were told last year to fade him. He's old. He had 136 tackles, 69 solos last year. Okay, the year before, we were told to fade him. He's old. He had 121 tackles, 74 solos. Yet they tell us to keep fading him. So no, I'm not fading him anymore. I'm going to drive him home like that old Volkswagen Beetle, and I'm going to drive him home until the wheels fall off. So he's just the perfect fit for me in that final flex piece when I'm in drafts. I looked up his ADP. It's mixed, but I want to say right now, don't quote me on this. I want to say in 1, 2, 3 scoring, it's something like LB 60 something. It's abysmal. Like he's not even projected to score anything, yet he produced as an LB 26 last year. So this guy is going to definitely outshine his ADP. He's a 3-down linebacker in the green dot position. It's just a no-brainer to me. He's a must given where he falls with his ADP.
No, I love it. You know, one of the things so started Fantasy and Frames in 2017, started our first podcast in 2018, and we were talking about, you know, the New York Jets at the time, and Demario Davis was somebody who caught my eye. And then the following year, if memory serves me correctly, he went in free agency to the New Orleans Saints and has been there ever since. And you're right there with the ageist thing. I think he's 36 years old. Mm-hmm. People are going to say he can't do this, he can't do that. No, he can do everything. He can rush, he can play in coverage, he can play against the run. This guy is literally like the Swiss Army knife who's had that consistent production, has a track record of impact plays as well. So, you know, he is the New Orleans Saints defense as far as I'm concerned, because he is such a great guy. And I believe we tweeted him out, and we said that we were naming you on our podcast the hashtag tackle machine of the NFL. Dude liked and retweeted it and commented and said, thanks a lot.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, no. So huge Demario Davis stand here. And I love this. I love this call here for you. JT, what are your thoughts?
Jorge, we like to call him a friend of the show. That's what.
Okay, that's the more concise way. That's the more concise way.
He likes it. He's good. He's our friend, even if he doesn't know it. I love this pick. I mean, if you're looking for production and you're, looking for someone way down the list that people are forgetting about, this is the guy. Like Steve said, he's older, but like the guy just produces and people forget about him. He's an absolute steal. If you missed on early or you waited, say you waited and you're like, oh, I got a couple guys, but I need that third or fourth linebacker to kind of steady my group. It has to be your guy.
Folks, we don't rehearse these things before we go on, do we, guys? We don't know. So me finding out that Demario Davis, and I just so happen to pull him out of my magic hat here, he retweets this show. How awesome is that? I mean, I'm like, I got goosebumps over here, Jorge. That's so cool.
Yeah, he is. I mean, just one of those good interactions you have with athletes on Twitter that you don't hear enough about. You always hear about the bad ones, but when the good ones happen, definitely gotta represent that. All right, let's go to our bust here. JT, who do you got for us here for the New Orleans Saints? Who are some busts?
So there's a couple guys that could be on this list. I'm taking. I feel like I'm kind of taking the low hanging fruit here. I'm just not in on Chase Young anymore. Like I'm just not. I feel like people see the name, they still think, oh man, he was a top 5 pick. I'm like, yeah, he hasn't been great. Like I'm just not spinning a pick on him. There's so many other guys I'd rather have. Even if he falls to me deep in the draft, there would have to be almost no one left for me to take him, to be honest with you. There's just so many other guys I'd rather have, especially young and up and coming guys if you're in Dynasty. So Chase Young is a guy I'm out on. Another guy who I like a ton, and I hate to even say this, but I'm worried about the way this team is running this system that he's going to get much IDP wise. And that's the new signee, Julian Blackmon, a former Colt, a guy I loved, had some great seasons when they let him play in the box. And then they moved him to free safety last year in Indy, and Nick Cross busted out. And now he was sitting at home waiting for a call, finally gets one, finally is on the Saints. But if you look where the production's been in this secondary the last couple of years, it has been the slot corner and the box safety. And they just signed Reed from Kansas City. Though him and Taylor are the guys I think are going to get you all the stats in this secondary. I like Julian Blackmon as a player. I think he's solid. He's getting to the Saints just a hair late. And I just have a feeling teams are going to test this team deep, and he's going to get stuck playing deep safety all year. And I just don't love the production I think I'm going to get out of him. So, again, like him as a player, but I'm probably passing at this point unless I'm real late in a deep league and I'm like, oh, I just need a guy that's going to play some at safety on bye weeks. Then I'd maybe go pick up Julian Blackmon. I tell you, he's one of the first guys I cut in a lot of my leagues when cut downs came. We made the draft picks and everyone's like, okay, we did a draft. Now we got to cut our leagues down by 10 roster spots. He was one of the first guys I cut. And I hated to cut him because I like him a ton. I just don't think he's going to be very productive IDP wise.
So question for you guys, when you're doing your cuts, are you position biased? Because I am. Like DBs are going first, backup tight ends. Why do you have, like, I don't know. I do the same thing though.
Yeah, DBs almost have to be the first cut. Just because there's always more DBs to pick up. Even if they're not great, there's more playable guys at DB, especially if you're in a start cornerback league, because there's a million cornerbacks out there. So
I was thinking that same point what you were talking about when you were talking about Chase Young, because I'm like, he had a renaissance year last year, and I was like, well, why? I'm the same way. Why don't I have him, or why am I punting him? Defensive linemen, those DL2s this year, like you can go like 50 deep from DL 25 to 50. They're almost the same guy. So I don't have any shares of Chase Young either. So I like both your points.
I don't think he's a terrible player. I just think the issue is that position has gotten so good, and there's so many young, talented guys. Yeah. If I'm in Dynasty, I'm taking my shot on one of those guys over Chase Young at this point. That's my thing about it. Not that I don't like him. I just literally, I don't think I've even had him in my queue in any of my drafts. So that's why to me to me that's why he's a bust for me.
My taxi stashes are pretty much that top offensive talent, that wide receiver stud, running back, and maybe the elite defensive player in the nation. But yeah, I'm not going to have too many DBs or tight ends or stuff like that. What have you? Yeah, I don't have a single share of Chase Young. It wasn't bad. He had a 66 grade pass rush, but I could think of 50 other guys that I'd probably take before him.
Yeah, and again, like you said, I think he was actually better last year. So that's why I felt like he was a little bit of a bust, because like, oh, he has that renaissance, but I don't ever think we're going to see that top 5 pick ever. I don't think it's coming. So I think he could still probably have a decent career and be around for a while, but I just, for fantasy purposes, he's not a guy I'm on.
All right, let me take it to a sleeper here for the New Orleans Saints for IDP from the NFC South. It's rookie Danny Stutzman, huge run defender out of Oklahoma last year for PFF. Of all the linebackers who were draft eligible in 2025, graded as the number 3 run stopping linebacker. He's number 6 in defensive stops. He was a liability in coverage, however. So he is definitely known as that run stopping linebacker who gets you all those tackles. Now, I will say in camp so far. He has picked off the quarterback a couple times. So there are signs that maybe he's turning the corner and getting better as a coverage linebacker. But for all intents and purposes, let's focus on the fact that he is a good run defender. You look at the other run defender on this team who graded out very well last year. Demario Davis. Shocking. Demario Davis does it all, right? Then you go to the next guy, Pete Werner, who, not as great. I guess that's a nice way of putting it. Not bad, but not an elite run stopping linebacker. And let's face it, Werner plays better in coverage than he does as a run defender. And we talk about Demario Davis, and I hate doing this because we were just hyping this guy up, but like, he's only going to be around for only so long, right? And we have been lucky that each and every single year as he's gotten older, he has been, relatively healthy as he's been going. So the question now becomes, okay, yes, he does so much for this defense. Is he going to slide in and potentially take snaps away from Demario Davis? Stutzman, that is, take snaps away from Demario Davis? Possibly. But as Philip here in the chat just put up, Pete sucks. No, tell us how you really feel. I think he's more competition for Pete Werner. You look at Pete Werner, yes. Linebacker 44 versus run, linebacker 35 versus tackling. Like that's just not the do. The Saints need all the elite pieces where they can be on this defense. So I definitely think Stutzman is somebody you should definitely take in the last few rounds of your IDP leagues, especially if you have deep benches and you have, to what Steve was alluding to, these, roster spots where it's like 3 and 3 of each, the positions DLLB and defensive back.
To the case on Danny Stutzman, you'd have to, you alluded to it, you said it well. His pass coverage got exposed last year, but if you go back to 2023, he was one of the top players in the nation. In fact, he was number 6 ranked linebacker in 2023. He had 104 tackles, 16 for a loss, 3 sacks. He's a thumper. He's going to learn the position. I think he's going to compete. Oh, by the way, in the Fantasy Six Pack, I got the camp battles coming out, that article. So look forward to that. But Stutzman should be battling with Werner and eventually groomed to take over Demario Davis's role. He is a rookie. He's a very good prospect. I like that as a stash, Jorge. And don't forget, what did we say earlier? The Saints are morphing to a 3-4. So there's going to be plenty of work for linebackers and edges to kind of get play. Charles Granderson's another good one, So Stutzman, I like them all to kind of implement in and see what happens.
Stutzman was one of my favorite guys coming in the draft, even though inside linebacker was falling. He got drafted late, but I think it was a product of the way the draft fell and people were kind of going after other positions that were a little higher rated. But I had him as a top 5 inside linebacker. I think he has a shot to be a pretty solid player for a long career. So if does he hit this year? Maybe not, but he's one of my favorite stashes. I think that he's a guy. I know we're going to be on the show next year and I'm going to be talking about, I told you buy Stutzman's second year, buy him in a second. Cause I think they're going to work him in this year, but I think there's a good chance by next year, he is like going into camp as one of the guys that's going to lead this team. I really like him. He's my favorite stash right now as linebackers are concerned. If he's left in rookie drafts, if I'm still drafting IDP rookie drafts, he's one of my favorite guys I'm waiting on. And I'm like, ooh, I'm just waiting like 4th round, 5th round. I'm like, ooh, can he get to me? I'm just waiting for him to get to me. So I love him. He's a great stash.
He'll come off the board right after the top names. You know what I mean? The Dimitri Knight. So you can easily sneak him in if he's your guy. I like that.
All right, let's go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers now. Let's go to some must, bust, and sleepers. Who do we got here for a must JT for the Tampa Bay Bucs?
A guy being slightly stepped on because he got injured last year, and that's a big one. But Antoine Winfield Jr. won me some leagues 2 years ago. He had an absolute monster season at DB. It's crazy because we always talk about the box safety. He ended up playing more free safety than we probably would like to see, but he was making plays all over the field. He was doing a little bit of everything, interceptions, fumble recovery, sacks. So they were using him in a lot of different ways. I think he's going to fall this year. I think he only played in, 9 games last year, something like that. But if you go back and look at his stats, he was basically, depending on your scoring, he was in double digits in every game, depending on your scoring. And if he wasn't, he just barely missed it. So when he was in there, he was good. He was good. So
cutting out right there, JT. But going back to Antoine Winfield, look, yeah, like he was saying, the guy was doing everything, a little bit of everything here. Even if he had some slight regression, whether it was helping out, in the passing game or whatnot, in terms of in coverage, he still holds a lot of value. Wouldn't you say, Steve?
Oh yeah, Antoine Winfield. Yeah, he's a top 3 in any draft you go into. He makes a lot of those big plays in the background, don't he, JT? Antoine Winfield, you can't go wrong with him. He's back there doing everything, a little bit of everything. I prefer when he plays in the box, but he can do box. He can go deep free. He's a perennial player. Every draft. See, my problem is I never get him because I always wait too long on DB. How about you?
Are you trolling? Are you trolling right now, knowing our love for defensive backs? I'm not sure if that is a proper troll job. If it is, congrats. That's very well done.
Jorge, I don't think we've ever started off a show with the first 2 must-haves both being defensive back. I freaking love it. It's great.
Yeah, I'm all for it. Yeah,
only in this type of division, but I love it that the first 2 calls for the first 2 teams were defensive backs.
Gotta love it there.
This division's so weird. Like Jorge said in the beginning, bad offenses make good IDP.
Yeah, there are times where IDP is very straightforward, and then there's times where it's just completely ass backwards, and you're just like, this shouldn't make sense, but it does.
Right.
And you just roll with it.
It does.
Let's talk about it.
I also think there's going to be a lot of the potential points scored in this division because I don't think the defenses are great. And so I think that's going to lean towards DB scoring a little higher than they typically would because teams are going to be moving the ball, scoring a lot more. They're going to be making more tackles and plays. So a little side tidbit there, but Antoine Winfield is one of my favorite guys. I love him. I've got him on a ton of dynasty leagues. I would never give him up at this point. Like I said, down year last year, so you maybe can go get him a little cheaper than he was. But to me, he's the leader of this defense. He's going to make a lot of plays for them.
I feel like down year in terms of where you were expecting him in terms of like his final finish in fantasy points production, had he stayed healthy the entire year, based off of the previous season a couple of years ago, but definitely on board with that. My bust here for the Tampa Bay Bucks is Hassan Reddick. Last year for the New York Jets only had a 10.8 pressure rate. You go back to 2022, graded very highly as a pass rusher. 2023, graded highly, and then, just last year with the contract holdout, just with the holdout in general, we didn't see a lot of him. We know that the Jets last year had a lot of pieces on that defensive line, and they were rotating people in and out. They were almost very Buffalo Bills-esque, except nobody really set themselves too far apart. Now he comes to Tampa Bay, replaces Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, who is in Cleveland right now. I think if there's an edge rusher on this team, it's not Hassan Reddick. I think we're starting to see some of the decline, and I'm not being an ageist. The guy's only 31 years old, or will be 31 this coming year. But if anything, even if he had some semblance of what he was 2 seasons ago or 3 seasons ago, I am of the belief that he frees up somebody else on this defensive line at this edge rushing position that will really help just because of, well, you know what? I'm just going to jump right to the sleeper here. Steve, why don't you tell us about who I may be alluding to?
Yeah, I have 2 for this category. And I just want to trail back what you said. IDP sometimes is very straightforward. Then other times it's like we're in the weeds and we're trying to pull things and draw conclusions and jump to a conclusion. My first sleeper is Yaya Diaby. And at first glance, it kind of seems like he isn't because he just had 4.5 sacks last season. Well, we know we can't chase sacks from year to year. He just had bad luck. He wasn't connecting. What often gets overlooked with Yaya is his ability to generate pressures. I believe we said this on the other podcast, the one me and JT did. He remained one of the league's most consistent disruptors. He finished in the top 20 with 57 total pressures. He just wasn't getting home. I'm willing to wager this year he connects on a lot more of those. It's just, common statistics. But every advanced metrics you see, it paints a bigger picture. He's a pressures guy, and he has a win rate that's strong at 14.6. That ranked 12th among the best pass rushers. If you look at those 12 pass rushers, he just happened to be the least with the 4.5 sacks. Like I said, I'm willing to wager that goes up because he has the productivity to be one of the elite players. That's why I have him as a sleeper.
No, you hit the nail right on the head. One of our IDP writers over at fantasyframes.com, Joe Harlow, Jolo63 over on X and on Blue Sky. He wrote up one of our IDP Dynasty riser players, and Yaya Diaby was right there at the top. And you hit the nail on the head. You can't go chasing sacks, just like you can't go chasing touchdowns on the offensive side of the ball. You have to look at what is causing the generation of being able to potentially get a sack. You look at the pressures, like you were alluding to, and let's not forget there are other metrics for pass rushes that you have to pay attention to. You have to look at the quarterback hits. You have to look at for the tackles for a loss. You have to look at the pass deflections, so on and so forth at the line of scrimmage. So definitely, don't let sacks be the only determining factor for you in your fantasy drafts this year when looking at edge rushers, especially if you're waiting on edge rusher and you think that maybe, oh my God, there's lack of a upside here. Trust, what they say, if it was in Philadelphia, trust the process, even though I doubt they trust the process anymore for the 76ers. The only basketball reference I'll make here on Shoot the Gap ever, which of all the basketball references, I couldn't have gone with like Michael Jordan or LeBron James. I'm going with Joel Embiid for whatever. And neither here nor there. Definitely love that pick right there. Who's another guy you have as a sleeper here, Steve?
Yeah, don't go chasing waterfalls. Please stick to the rivers and the lakes that you're used to. Right, Jorge?
Yes.
So,
Nice.
I had to get that in. I had to get off my chest. Hey, this second guy is a sleeper as sleepers go. Servoisier Dennis, the casual fan's not going to know who that is. He's been a sleeper on our sleeper list for 2 years in a row now. And honestly, he's having an impressive offseason. Again, go back and look at my article, the camp battles going on right now. I got him pegged. He snagged a slick interception off Baker Mayfield during OTAs already. He's been flying around the ball, giving good run support. That's a good sign for what's going to come. Dennis is known for elite coverage. He's got good instincts. He's a sure tackler. He's an effective blitzer. PFF grade is 74.3 last year. Now, why is he still a sleeper? He got hurt, didn't he, last year? He logged 20 tackles and a sack over the first 3 games. 4th game started, he got hurt. And then the casual fan doesn't even remember him. He was gone the rest of the year. So anticipate him as a good breakout candidate, which, by the way, all of those stats I just mentioned, he was in the 16%. That ranked him in the top 16% of all linebackers per PFF. So here you got 2 sleepers on Tampa Bay, and that team's a good defense anyway, but you got 2 sleepers that PFF agrees with us that are up and coming, and the casual fan's not gonna draft them or know who they are.
I mean, he's sliding in, taking over KJ Britt's role. Levante David is another year older. Again, I say that, but I don't want to be ageist, but Levante David keeps I think he is exceeding a lot of the expectations I think a lot of us were having. So, you look at the next in line, and you mentioned it, the OTAs and the mini camps, he was looking good. He has been looking good and getting that opportunity finally, cut short last year by the injury, of course. Love that. JT, real quick, your thoughts on Servoisier Dennis?
Yeah, I think it's nice. We saw some highlights from him last year. We saw when he got into playing time, he got in there. I think he falling way under the radar, like Steve said. If it wasn't for the injuries, I think people would be on him more. But he looked good. If the team believes in him, they think that he's the starting spot. I gotta believe that it's legit because he did look solid when he was in there before he got hurt.
I want to say he's a 5th round draft pick too, so that's a sleeper. And this is, like I said,
we've been seeing some decent inside linebackers from 4th, 5th rounds, haven't we, the last couple of years? Because
Yes.
they're just a little off. Everybody's kind of like, oh, we got to get an edge. We got to get an edge. We got to get an edge. So the inside linebacker has kind of fallen down as far as, what teams consider, what they need elite talent. And so you can see some of these guys that are really solid players and are obviously great for IDP. You've seen them fall in drafts. And I think sometimes those guys fall through the cracks because people are like, oh, they weren't a 1st or 2nd round pick. And so they see these guys are 4th, 5th rounders, but teams like them. They're just like, oh, we're going to go get these other guys first because we feel like we got to have a pass rusher. We got to have a cornerback. We got to have this. We got to have that. Oh, we can get inside linebacker. And those inside linebacker, even though I think their 2nd, 3rd round value are sometimes dropping to 5th or 6th, 4th round, 5th round, 6th round, because the emphasis on inside linebacker is just not as big as it used to be 10, 20 years ago.
Love it, love it, love it. All right, before we get to our next team, just want to give a shout out to the people over at Trophy Smack. They reached out to me a couple weeks ago, and they're like, hey, we got a really cool deal we want to give you at Fantasy and Frames. We want to give you a promo code that'll allow anybody who uses the promo code Fantasy and Frames 10, the number 10, not the word, you will get 10% off of any purchase. Trophies, championship belts, like the one that's over here, championship banners, rings, draft kits. I know you all like getting your draft boards and doing your home league drafts. Get over to trophysmack.com, get your
I need one of those bad. I'm glad we brought. I was thinking about this. I was like, I need to get mine ordered. I got my home league draft in a couple weeks. I was like, I need a new draft board because I had a huge old wooden draft board that somebody made for me like 20 years ago, and it's like a million pounds. It's so bad moving around and writing on the markers. We would pick it up, move it bar to bar for all the different drafts. Oh, I'd have to find somebody with a big truck to move it. I'm like, oh, I'm going to chuck that. I literally pulled it. It's sitting inside of my brewery right now, like ready to go in the trash. This is like, I'm just going to order a new one that I can hang on the wall. It's like super light, easy. So much better. I'm glad you brought that up, Jorge. I got to order one right after the show.
Well, you should use the promo code Fantasy and Frames 10 while you do it and save 10% off.
Thank you very much, sir.
It's funny. I pre-COVID, I was always doing home drafts, and I would save my draft boards every single year. And on the back of them, when if my season went well, I was like writing like this was my thought process during the draft on the back of it. Like I would write like notes on it. And then if I had a bad year in big marker, permanent marker, I would say like death to this team. This team sucks. This team was horrible. This team let me down, And then one year my wife was asking me because she was new to playing IDP fantasy football. She's like, can you explain the differences between a 4-3 and a 3-4? So then the back of the draft board became my chalkboard. And I'm like, okay, so I'm circling this and I'm putting the X's and O's. And I'm like, well, this person's going to circle around here. And
Lombardi.
So, yeah, exactly. exactly. But the point is that these draft boards are great. They're very high quality, tons of stickers. They have awesome, cool things at Trophy Smack. Like they have, you all remember the movie Borat where he wore that totally embarrassing bathing suit? They got something like that for their for your league's loser or last place finisher, so that you can have them humiliated just like that. They got all sorts of cool stuff over at trophysmack.com. So head over there today, use the promo code Fantasy and Frames 10, the number 10, and get 10% off of your purchase today. And with that, let us go to Carolina. Let's talk about the Carolina Panthers, and let's get into some musts here. For me, one is very easy to say, believe it or not. One is not so easy to say, but I'm going to say it anyhow. So let's start with the not so easy. Let's pull the Band-Aid off. Let's just get it out of the way. Christian Rosebroom, come on up. Josie Jewell, he is out for an extended period of time. Next man up, Christian Rosebroom, he is going to be, I believe, the linebacker that ultimately you're going to want. I know Trevin Wallace, he's also there. I get it. But if I'm going off of, who has the better choice of an impact, who's had the experience in the league, who can put up some high tackle numbers when given the opportunity, is he super efficient at doing so? No. But like we were alluding to earlier in the show, this division, in terms of the defenses all around, are not looking like what we like to say are good. So these defenses will definitely be on the field. So I think by volume alone, Christian Rosebroom has the potential to return LB3 value for sure, and even get into the LB2 territory. The one who I think is even a bigger must, though, if I had to throw it out here, is Trayvon Moehrig, because freshly assigned in free agency, formerly of the Las Vegas Raiders, who you saw him play the 6th most box snaps out of any safety per PFF. Last year had a 7.9%, I want to say, missed tackle rate. So super efficient tackling, had a high solo to assist per PFF. I think it was like 73 to 20 something assisted tackles. Now he's coming to Carolina. He's going to be playing that box safety role. And, what do we say about the box safeties? They're your hybrid de facto third linebackers or second linebackers, depending on how many linebackers you deploy normally. He's going to creep up to the line of scrimmage. You know why? Because this linebacking core is going to need him. They're going to need him to play in that box role, and that's only going to help you put him in a position to make those plays against the run, to help get you those tackles for a loss. Trayvon Moehrig for me, definitely a must get for defensive back. And again, he's somebody who doesn't necessarily hold a lot of name value to newer people to IDP, so you could definitely wait on him if you go defensive end or defensive line and linebacker and snag up a great one there. Steve, if you were going to prioritize, which one would you do that? And I say that knowing your quote unquote aversion to getting defensive backs early.
You know what? Honestly, it depends what kind of mood I'm in. You know what I mean? It depends. Depends what kind of mood I'm in. It depends what draft. It depends what build I'm in. You know what I mean? Sure. It's gonna vary. I don't have a. I can't call it. JT, you got thoughts there? I can't call it.
I tell you what, I picked up Roseboom a couple of years ago. I was just desperate. I had so many guys hurt. I was like, I'm looking at the stats, and I'm like, man, he's only playing like 40% of snaps for the Rams.
And his numbers are.
But I'm like, I need him. I need him for a bye week. I need to play him.
Right.
He ended up the next year playing a ton because Reader got hurt. He ended up being a very playable guy for me. So I'm super bummed now that he looks like to be the lead. I'm probably taking him because, again, with the Josie Jewell thing, which I'm going to bring up here in a couple minutes, I think the fact that he's gone now in there and it feels like there's no way he's not the starter and the main guy, and I think I'm on Roseboom. You got to love the flowing hair. You got to love the name. You can yell
right now. He's on point to be the green dot. I have the green dot defender article. I have it written in my mind. I haven't got it out. So Joe's at the beach this week. So I'll probably have the green dot article in 2 weeks. I'm trying to get that out quick for OTA start, but he's the guy right now. He's the veteran presence. To answer your question, I don't like the metrics, I don't think, but they're not going to give it to somebody who's too youthful or doesn't know the playbook. So it's Roseboom. I feel that.
Yeah, I'm with you there, guys. I love Trayvon Moehrig. Don't get me wrong. I think he's going to be the bigger asset when you look at the position of defensive back. But I think overall for IDP, Roseboom has the leg up there. JT, give us some sleepers here for the Carolina Panthers.
So to go on the other side of that, Trevin Wallace is a guy got hurt at the end of last year. I think he's still growing. I think he can be good. But to me, he's a sleeper in that. I think this is Roseboom is the guy to have. But I think people are absolutely sleeping on Wallace. And with the Josie Jewell situation and him now being cut, everybody before was like, ooh, where's Wallace fall in this? Now I think he's in. He's in the starting lineup. Now, will he stay in there? Can he hold it? I don't know. But to me, he's a really cheap get at inside linebacker right now. So Trevin Wallace is probably a guy I'm keeping an eye on because he was getting zero love early in drafts earlier this year, like not drafted in a ton of leagues because people didn't think he was going to start. Now I think he is in a position to start with no Josie Jewell. So he's a guy I'm on. If I'm looking at rookies, guys I'm stashing, guys I want to pick up, Nick Scorton is a guy that I'm loving. I think he makes his way into the lineup at some point this year. And I think he pushes down the stretch for sure. But he's a guy seen fall in rookie IDP drafts like way down the list, way farther than he should. I've also seen him literally go undrafted where me and a couple other people have jumped in and we're like bidding through our nose at free agent fab trying to get him because we're like, oh, I can't believe he didn't go drafted. I like Nick Scorton. I think he is going to end up being a really good edge rusher. I don't love the edge rushers on this team. I think he finds a way to make his way into the lineup. So it's definitely if you have a team where you have a taxi squad or a big team where you can stash a guy, Scorton's a guy I like, especially at the end of drafts. I've been seeing him fall to the last round or, like I said, go undrafted, and I just can't believe he's going undrafted in a lot of things.
Hey, to your point with Trevin Wallace, though, a lot of people who just look at box scores, that's kind of a lazy way to try to win an IDP league. Yeah, look at the advanced stuff. You got to look at the trends. For Trevin Wallace, his stats were okay, but he only played 8 games as a rookie. He recorded 63 tackles. He's going to smash that this year. And there's one less linebacker in the way. So I like him as a sleeper too.
And I was going to say, like you said, Steve, he had 2 games where he finished top 10. So he didn't even play that many games, but he had 2 top 10 finishes in 2 different weeks early on in the season before he got hurt. And he was a tackle machine in college at North Carolina, I believe. So I like him. Again, with the Josie Jewell being gone, I was on the fence on him. I'm like, ooh, I kind of liked him as a rookie. And now no Jewell, I'm like, ooh, this is a guy I should be checking every waiver wire or anyone who's not like paying attention to him and picking him up.
All right, Steve, who's a bust here for the Carolina Panthers?
Hey, you know what's funny? Funny story. I'm going to go back to that Ultra GM, what I've been talking about. Promo code Hunter. You get to play in 2 leagues, right? I'm in my draft right now, and I'm trying to cut my salary cap down. I'm trying to look at players, and Ashawn Robinson, defensive tackle, Carolina Panthers, he jumps out. He signed that 3-year, $22.5 million deal. So here's a little cheat code for those that are playing Ultra GM. You know what I did? I put him in my taxi squad. I put him in my practice squad. So now he's only making $285,600 against my cap. Little cheat code. I looked up here. Now I have $62.1 million for my rookies and whatever I bring in, right? And go ahead, Jamie. I know you're listening to podcasts. Go ahead and take him. You're eating that cost. I can get a defensive tackle anywhere. So I put him on my practice squad because I don't want him at that value. And you know what else? He's not producing for the rest of us. He's not producing at the rate that a $22 million defensive tackle should be. He signed that deal. He didn't live up to it. The 2024 season, he had high expectations. I don't know if you guys remember early in the offseason, he was a sleeper. He was brought in to be that run-stuffing presence. They run the 3-4 last year alongside Derek Brown on the other side. But when the Pro Bowler suffered a season-ending injury, guess what? Robinson showed limitations. Ironically, he was better as a pass rusher slightly than a run defender, but it still wasn't good enough. 80 tackles, 5.5 sacks. That's mad at me. The squeeze isn't worth the juice here. So, yeah, he's a bust for me. Salary cap leagues, DT leagues, you can do better. Regular leagues. I don't want nothing to do with Ashawn Robinson. I'm daring somebody right now. I'm double dog daring them. I'm triple dog daring them, Jorge, to take them off my practice squad. Take that money off my hands.
Had you left it at double dog, I would have been like, bold. You realize by going triple, you now just ensure that he's defensive player of the year or something like that regard. But no, I 100% co-sign that. Love that pick there. Love all your guys' picks. It's almost like we know some stuff here in IDP Fantasy Football. Crazy that, right? Sometimes. Yeah. Let's finish off the division preview here for the NFC South, talking about the Atlanta Falcons. JT, who is a must for the Atlanta Falcons for you?
This guy is a guy who had a phenomenal 2024. Still isn't getting the love, though. He still isn't getting the love for a guy that played as well as he did. If you go back and you look at Fantasy Pro scoring, he finished as number 4 linebacker. He had just a breakout year, monster year, over 130 tackles, 5 sacks. Fantasy Pro scoring put up 233 points. My leagues score a little higher than that, so he was up in the 300 range in a bunch of my higher scoring leagues. Caden Ellis, man. Caden Ellis was a beast. He was kind of in the mix with Landman, kind of the mix with Anderson. You just weren't sure who was going to be the guy week to week for Atlanta last year to start off. Ellis just he stole the show. He stole the show. He's the guy. He's going into the season as a clear-cut LB1 for this team. I'm still shocked at where he's going in drafts. I keep getting him way later than I think he should go because he's just not a great he's not a big name, and I think people just don't realize how good he was for Atlanta last year. Caden Ellis is the guy I've got my eye on. There's some rookies I really like, some sneaky plays as those defensive ends, some of the guys they took. But I think if you're going for a guy on this team that is just like lock him in the lineup, play him every week, it's got to be Ellis. He scored over 9 points in Fantasy Pros scoring in 16 of 18 starts. 16 of 18 starts. He was over 9 points. So, and he was at like 9.8, like on his down weeks. So he was finishing top 10, top 20 most weeks of the season. He was just steady Eddie for them last year. You can still get nice value on him compared to some of these other big names. So that's the guy I want, Caden Ellis.
It's funny, when you look at Caden Ellis, multifaceted, I think is a great word to describe his skill set. He, again, much like a Demario Davis, there are a lot of areas on the field he can contribute. And I think it's funny, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, because when Caden Ellis came on the scene in replacement of an injured Pete Werner one season, guess who was there? Oh, it was Caden Ellis. Oh, well, you know what? They decided to let Caden Ellis go and keep Pete Werner. And now he's paying dividends for the Atlanta Falcons. Love that. I 100% agree. He's being slept on, not given enough respect. Steve, anything you want to add to that?
34 pressures. He's very rare. He's an inside tackle guy, but he's also a pressure guy. So even big play scoring, I'm going after him. I was thinking when you guys were talking last year, you're right, JT. No one knew how the linebackers were going to shape out. They were talking Troy Anderson. They were talking this. I had it pegged right. I'm like, this guy's overlooked. I wrote about him in my overlooked linebackers article, and I did it again this year. He's still overlooked. One thing about the Falcons, whichever is your flavor, if you like chocolate, you like vanilla, you like strawberry, you like Jorge, you probably like pistachio. I don't know. There's all different strokes for different folks.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you right there. But I was at the work coffee shop this morning, and they had like combo flavors. So I'm a big hazelnut or French vanilla person.
Wow,
and they said we have a combo flavor you could put in your coffee. I'm like, what is it? Hazelnut and pistachio. And I'm like, huh, okay. And so like they handed me the cup, and it had like the little flavoring in it. And first it looked green, and I'm just like, all right, well, this is not a great start to where things are about to go. And I'm assuming that the pistachio was the culprit there, being green. So I fill up my coffee. It was not optimal. And again, nice way of putting complete garbage. So no, not a pistachio person, but I understand where you're going with the reference.
You only live once, so you got to try all the different flavors. But whichever was your favorite linebacker, Caden Ellis had a role. He was that guy. He was your blitzer. He was your guy in the middle. So I called it early. I'm like, this is your 3 down. Everyone else will split snaps. I was called crazy, what have you, but here we are again. Any scoring format, he's your must.
Yeah, I had a ton of Ellis because I love Troy Anderson. I love Troy Anderson, but he keeps getting hurt. So I had Ellis in a ton of leagues, and I was like, I'm just going to take both of them and see which guy hits. And so when Anderson got hurt and Ellis kind of just absolutely took over, I was like, oh, that kind of lucked out there. So I'm really hoping Troy Anderson can bounce back, man.
How many of us,
Montana State?
How many of us can raise our hand? How many of us have Troy Anderson as a backup or hoping in our flex, when in reality we have sleepers on this podcast here that are probably going to outplay him, and probably nobody has them. Nobody. Matters of fact, I guarantee. How many leagues is this guy owned in? Like 12% of leagues? I'm gonna look while we're. I
have Anderson in so many leagues. I just refuse to drop him. It's like
everybody does.
Anderson and Chad Muma are like the 2 guys that I refuse to get rid of, even if they're not getting snaps and not playing. I'm like, I refuse. At some point, they're gonna blow up, and I just keep holding. And those guys are in the same draft, and they were 2 of my favorite linebackers in that draft class.
Jorge wants to talk ice cream again. I don't have any more analogies. Maybe he's golden vanilla. No, you know what? He's golden vanilla. Troy Anderson's the golden fleece in Greek mythology. You're going up the hill, you're looking for the golden fleece, and it's not what it's cracked up to be. It's like a bounty paper towel, isn't it? So I have him too. I'm holding my breath, but he's getting outplayed as we speak in OTAs right now.
Love it, love it, love it. Let me get to my bust here for the Atlanta Falcons. It's Leonard Floyd. Look, I'm sorry, you don't draft 2 edge rushers in the first round of the NFL draft and not expect them to be the guys, especially given the track record of the Atlanta Falcons pass rush the past few seasons and how they whiffed on Jalen Carter. They didn't address, the defense. I think the last time they addressed the defensive line was Arnold Ebiketie getting drafted there in the earlier rounds of the NFL draft. So you get these 2 guys, you get Walker, you get James Pierce, who they traded back in the back end of the second round and gave up quite a bit to go get him. And a lot of people were like, "Oh, that's crazy. You gave up too much." I'm actually okay with it because I believe in the talent. I believe what James Pierce did at Tennessee will start to translate into the pros, especially when you're playing opposite Jalen Walker. I mean, these 2 young guys, the Atlanta Falcons have no reason not to start both of these guys, for the rest of the season. And we look at Leonard Floyd, okay, journeyman, defensive end, there for, I believe, just as more of like a veteran presence. James Pierce's upside is, I believe, undeniable here when comparing the 2. So odd man out, it has to be Leonard Floyd. JT, what are your thoughts on Floyd and his competition with James Pierce this year?
I agree with you. You're taking 2 first rounders, traded up, gave up a lot for a guy. You're gonna give those guys first shot, I would think. And if Floyd gets the start because he's the veteran early on, he's been solid in the past, but I think those guys are gonna get every opportunity to play. So Floyd is, I agree with you. I'm probably out on Floyd, even though he's been solid on multiple different units. But the real question is, can the Falcons, no matter who they draft, they never can seem to figure out their pass rush. So it's like they've been like the absolute black hole of defensive end and edge rushers the last couple of years. It doesn't matter how high quality, how high of a ranking a guy has they draft. They just have not been able to seem to get guys to put together. It blows my mind how many guys have gone there and just completely disappeared. So hopefully these rookies work it out, but I'm out on Floyd as well.
Any thoughts there, Steve?
I mean, this whole team, you can argue they're sleepers. You know what I mean? Oh, maybe this one, maybe that one. The chances are, though, the Falcons are putting their money. They're putting their money and their investments in Walker, Jalen Walker, and James Pierce. We know who Ellis is. We know who James Bates is. They like Watts. They're building a team. Everyone else is a yeah, maybe. Everyone else is that generic ice cream, Jorge. You know what I mean? That's that chocolate cherry cordial. I can't think of any more ice cream flavors. The generic brand, Floyd is just passing through. And what is Floyd right now? One trick pony. What is he known for? Not going to get you much time. He's going to get you sacks. Maybe he'll have a sack season. Maybe he won't. But he's going to be rotating in and out. I'm not holding my breath on Floyd at all. Again, he's just passing through. Those guys are the future.
100% agree with both of y'all's points. Steve, take us home here with the Atlanta Falcons as well as the NFC South with a sleeper on the team.
Yeah, like we were saying, the whole team's kind of sleepers, right? And they invest in the draft picks. So they didn't have much money left when it came to the free agent well, right? So they're bringing in a guy, Divine Diablo, who right now he is working his butt off in OTAs and training camp. He's outpacing everyone else for that LB2 role. So now that all the spending is on these other guys, they couldn't bring a big free agent in. So expect Divine by default to land in this Divine situation because Troy Anderson can't. He's constantly getting hurt. We keep holding our breath. And it's crazy to say this because I don't think anyone has Divine shares. I was trying to pull the roster percentage, but my internet doesn't want to work with me. I don't think Divine's owned in many leagues. I think Troy Anderson's still owned in more, but it's the other way around. It's the exact opposite right now. You can get away with Divine as one of your last flex spot options. The reason he's going late and the reason why people are like, yeah, gross. He appeared in 54 games with the Raiders. He had those 288 total tackles. He had a standalone season, if you go back 2 years, 2023, where he did rack 106 tackles in 15 games. So that kind of gave him a reputation as a tackling machine, which is what this team's LB2 is going to need. But where the issue was in 2024, he kind of got exposed in passing coverage. So just be mindful of that. We're talking about a 2 down, maybe 2.5 down player right now. I do have questions, but on this whole list, everybody that we can argue a sleeper, this guy here has the easiest trajectory.
100%. You look, and to your point, I feel like his sleeper potential is directly tied to the fact that Anderson can't stay healthy. I think Anderson's hurt right now, if memory serves me correctly. So that, and I'm not being sarcastic. I think he actually is legitimately hurt as we speak. So Diablo definitely is jumping in there next to Caden Ellis, and I think there's even more upside that I think we're giving him credit for, just because with Caden Ellis being that Swiss Army knife who maybe has to join, Walker and Pierce in rushing the passer or generating pressures here, that opens up some snaps, in the run department, in the tackling in the middle of the field department there for Diablo as well. So, again, all these defenses are going to be putting in a lot of work this year in the NFC South, we believe. And so this is perfect opportunity. I love that sleeper pick. That's a great sleeper pick right there, Steve. And with that, folks, volume is king, whether it's on the offensive side of the ball or defensive side of the ball. Snaps. That's what it all comes down to. You got to be on the field and be on the field a lot to make dividends in your fantasy football leagues, whether it's on offense or for IDP. And with that, that's going to wrap up the NFC South IDP divisional preview. Again, head over to fantasyandframes.com next week. All of our written content where we go through all the teams, all the players, all the positions on IDP, values, must starts, people that we're high and low on, all that comprehensive information for every single team, every single relevant fantasy player will be out there. And then, of course, for those who are attending the Fantasy Football Expo, which, again, we're all looking forward to seeing you and talking with you, we will be hosting the IDP panel during the Fantasy Football Expo at the breakout stage from 1 to 2 p.m. So definitely come down, join us. And if those who are interested in the Kings Classic and want to see some of the best analysts in all of fantasy football compete against each other and look at our draft strategies live and in person, Steve, you and I, as well as others in the IDP community, will be there for the Dick Butkus Kings Classic IDP Division Draft. Come through, say hi, hang out, enjoy what we're doing, look at our thought processes. As much as we're there to compete and to get our teams, all squared away in our draft, we also recognize that, a lot of people out there who like IDP, want to learn more, and, we're here to teach them as well and have a good time in general at the Fantasy Football Expo. So we're definitely looking forward to seeing you there, as well as the IDP breakout panel. Before we get out of here, Steve, anything else you would like to plug before we get out of here? 3
things real quick. If you guys want to check out over to Fantasy Six Pack, I got articles coming out. I got the Team Schemes article. I have the Green Dot, Who's Wearing the Green Dot Defenders article. And then, of course, I have the Camp Battles. All of that is coming out back to back to back. Second thing, on the RPO football show, I just put it out today. We pre-recorded yesterday. We had Delco Dave and we had Jamie Progon. Fast draft. We did the rabbit draft. I thought I can draft good, JT. They picked it apart. There's so many tips and pointers. So it became a very humbling experience. It became a strategy video. Please check that out. It's my love letter back to Matt Kelly and his great tournament he had. And then the third thing, we always talk about D Up on this channel. I think it's closing tonight, if I'm not mistaken. This may be your last chance today or tomorrow because they're almost full. I could be crying wolf, but I think I heard that. So I think I'm going to catch one more draft tonight before I go to bed if you want to get on to D Up. And then you have the promo code FRAMES for that. So that's awesome. But yeah, get in there while you still can. And I'm sure they're going to have more tournaments throughout the year, but that's it. And if anybody wants to follow me on Twitter, I don't know why, but if you want to see me on Twitter, IDP Hunter. I don't know why you'd want to do that. It might be dangerous for your health.
Well, it might be dangerous for your health, but it's money for your IDP Fantasy Football League. So there you go.
Appreciate that.
JT, what do you got going on?
No, I was telling him, I think he's right. I think we're at like 92 or 95% on a lot of the drafts. I did an IDP one the other day. jumped in, got in that draft. I think I got 2 in there. I might try to get one more. Might try to jump in and get one more before we get going here.
JT, 2:30 in the morning last night. They needed one more. I couldn't hang. I'm like, nah, I just want to get one more.
That's usually when I jump in. That's usually my peak time. But I was talking to Steve before the show. I'm falling asleep early. I'm falling asleep early right now because I've been at football practice out in the sun and the heat, and so I'm like falling asleep at like 11:30, 12 when I'm usually like a 2, 3 a.m. type of guy. So I was like, I feel like I'm missing out on a lot of late night stuff I'm usually around for. So I usually would be all over in that draft, but I might jump in one more tonight if I can.
I'm gonna try.
I've got in a couple, but I might get in another one. Those are pretty interesting, pretty fun. Got to be on point because they are like 20 seconds ago. So, but they're fun. You can check me out, JT Orange, on the X or Twitter. If you're around, you like hockey, Tuesday nights, 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central, around the ice here on Fantasy and Frames. You can join me and Aaron Tomatich and Brian Clark Toast. We're just breaking down fantasy hockey through the summer, doing a bunch of different drafts, talking about different leagues, and then we're going to be pumping out a ton of fantasy and betting content as the season gets here. So that's Tuesday nights here on Fantasy and Frames. So definitely check me out on there.
And don't forget, folks, head over to Fantasy and Frames, not only for our divisional previews, as well as other articles and our IDP rankings. We got myself, Joe's, and JT's rankings should be up by the end of the weekend. So get ready for that. And, for Steve, for JT, I'm Jorge. Thank you very much for tuning in to Shoot the Gap. Next week, we will do the AFC South, and then the week after, back-to-back episodes, NFC North and AFC North to round out all of our division previews. So stay tuned for that. So, folks, have a great evening, and we'll see you next time.